This podcast represents the opinions of Andrew Porteous and his guests to the show. The content here should not be taken as medical advice. The content here is for informational purposes only, and because each person is so unique, please consult your healthcare professional for any medical questions. I hope you enjoy this episode of the University Support and Success podcast with your host, Andrew Porteous. Now let's get into it. Hello everyone and welcome back to another episode of the University Support and Success podcast. Now guys, to be completely honest with you, because this is how I am, this is take 3. We've had some technical difficulties. I never hide that from you. But today I am joined by Sharon Stiles from sharonstiles.co.uk. And today we're going to talk about a few different topics. So we're going to talk about anxiety, sleep, hypnosis. Now, I know what you're thinking, guys. You're probably thinking of the person that stands at the front of a show and does hypnosis and makes someone cluck like a chicken or feel really cold on stage. Now, that's not the only type of hypnosis, and we're going to learn about that a bit more now. But I am going to start by introducing Sharon. She is based in Bristol, which I love to know because it means I can go and visit her whenever I like. Ironically, we are doing this by Zoom because the world right now. But Sharon started in 2002 when she qualified as a hypnotherapist, and she's been helping people make positive changes in their lives since then. Now, she is based in Bristol and has a treatment room there, and she's online all around the world. So if you're listening from a different country, do not worry, she can see you. She's been fascinated by hypnosis and the power of our minds since the first experience she had with hypnosis, which was when one of her friends, who was in their 70s, a long-time smoker, stopped smoking, and it was achieved through hypnosis. So this is what sparked her interest in learning how to do it herself. So when things changed in her life, she went and did some hypnotherapy training, and she's done many different courses to learn different aspects of hypnosis and other practitioner things. That's probably not the right phrase, but practitioner things is what I'm going with. And we're going to learn about those acronyms a bit more because I like asking about them, even though I forget most times that I've asked. So, hello, Sharon. Welcome to the podcast.
Hello. Yeah, good to be back.
Yes,
see you again.
Fingers crossed for this time. I am normally quite open about any issues that happen.
This also goes to prove that, you don't need to get overly stressed about things. You just get on and do it. Life happens. Just get on and get on with it.
Exactly. And I feel like this podcast is a example of things go wrong. Try again. Unless it's actually not going to help you, and then don't try again because there's no point. But this is going to help you guys. I know this. So I know I've asked you a couple times now, and I'm going to ask you again for the benefit of the listeners. What is, and if you want to know why I'm saying these acronyms, please go look at sharonstiles.co.uk. But what is EMDR?
So EMDR is one of the techniques that I use. It stands for eye movement desensitization and reprocessing. So that's why it's shortened to EMDR, because it's a lot easier to say. And it's used a lot in trauma. I often describe it a little bit like a deep clean for the mind. It kind of gets in there, all those little bits that have been hanging around and you have difficulty getting rid of in other ways. What it does is you use eye movements. So quite often you've got something like a pen or something like that, and you're just moving it from side to side so that your eyes can move from side to side as well. When you're doing that, your mind is actually reprocessing those events or those memories that have actually been causing you problems and trauma in the past. It's really, really effective. It actually came originally from NLP as well. So one of the people who was studying NLP, she discovered that by moving her eyes from side to side while she was thinking about something, actually seemed to neutralize the bad feeling that she had. And so they then developed it, and it's usually the recommended treatment for trauma in the UK. So I use it, I combine it with hypnosis as well, because I think it's a little bit gentler when you combine it with hypnosis as well. But it's great, really, really good technique.
That's awesome. And I think a lot of people will probably resonate with eye move. It's very tricky to kind of like put it in Andrew speak, if that makes any sense. Like, because it is so technical, but still really fascinating. I love that it came from someone doing NLP, because that just, in my mind, validates NLP even more, guys, because I love NLP. I love it. And I think for me, just the idea of something that simple, if that makes sense. And I guess people have probably been doing it without thinking. A lot of, like, if you think back to when people had big clocks with pendulums, I feel like that's probably a very early stage of this, of watching that pendulum swing, which again probably links to potentially the misconceptions around hypnosis, which we'll talk more about later, of using an object swinging side to side, because the little links that are being made in my head, just, I come up with everything. Like, none of it makes sense most of the time, but
that's our mind, isn't it? It doesn't make sense. And I think with a lot of these things as well, a lot of the different techniques are simply similar processes, but looking at it from a different angle. And that different angle will resonate with different people. So NLP is the real thing for you, but actually there may be similar techniques that I might call hypnosis. Somebody else might call them NLP, somebody else might call them meditation or something like that. So there's different things that you come at from a different angle, and you find the one that goes, oh, that's what works really well for me. There's a lot of things where, you'll find somebody, you do a relaxation hypnosis with somebody and they'll go, well, that's meditation, or that's just relaxation, or, that's listening to a visualization. So yeah, don't get too hung up on all the different things is what I would say. Just like go with what seems to work for you.
And I guess that's what, in my mind, makes you so versatile, is because you know all these different techniques. So when you work with a client, you can, like, the same way different doctors can assess different patients in different ways, you can kind of assess from different points and pick the right method for them, which just inspires me to think, like, I need to think of different ways to, and I do, like, I've got my teaching, I've got NLP, I've got the coaching that I did, so it's all kind of different, and it is very much the case by case. I think that's what makes you kind of a powerhouse in this area, because you can use any of the techniques. The other technique I want to ask you about is EFT, because I've seen it sponsored. Like, there's loads of people on social media at the moment, and there's loads of sponsored posts on Instagram and stuff like that about I can't remember, something tapping. I know that it links to EFT, but the listeners might not know what EFT is. So can you explain a little bit?
Yeah, EFT is often known as the tapping technique. So the letters, more letters, stand for emotional freedom technique. There's also various different versions of it as well, so it'll come up with different things. It basically uses acupressure and either some self-hypnosis or some NLP in there as well. I tend to use it possibly on a more sort of hypnotic level. The person who actually came up with the actual EFT routine, which derived from another sort of similar technique as well, he used it in a much more NLP related way as well. So different people, again, put their own spin on it. But what it involves basically is either tapping or rubbing on acupressure points whilst you're focusing on how you feel. So it's always about forget positive thinking and focus on the reality of the situation. So if you feel anxious, you're focusing on how anxious you feel. Traditionally, you will be finding a phrase. So it might be something like, I feel really anxious. I feel awful. I don't think anybody respects me, or I can't do this, or I'm frightened of this spider, or whatever it might be that's actually the problem. Some people will use the phrase and say that while they tap on acupressure points like that. I tend to get people to rub on the points because it's naturally more soothing. and also to simply focus on how they feel, because you don't have to put it into words. So it kind of, it just gets right into the actual heart of the problem rather than having to do that extra step. EFT, if I could only teach people, if I could only use one of the particular techniques, although I love hypnosis, for self-help techniques, EFT is the one that I would recommend to everybody. I teach it to every single person I see because it's so versatile. You can use it on so many different things.
That's fascinating to me, like, because many of the listeners will know that I've got a plethora of situations, because I'm not secretive about my anxiety, depression, ADHD, all of that fun stuff. But it's interesting to know that some of the things that I've kind of been doing through my life have a thing, like, if that makes sense. It has some substance behind it. I wasn't just doing it randomly. And I think one of the big things, and we've discussed this on one of the previous attempts to record, is like people with anxiety, and I'm going to dip into anxiety now, like rubbing their hands or playing with their fingers. And obviously we discussed it on attempt 1 of like rubbing your wrists together and I'm going to ask you to redo those because I think they're very beneficial. But it's interesting to see how things that I've been doing through my life are part of these practices, but I just had no idea.
Yeah.
And it's fascinating to find someone that knows all about it to like almost not validate what I've done, because I would have done it anyway, but to kind of say, well, actually, no, this is why it helps you. Because I like to know things. I'm very geeky in that sense.
It kind of makes sense then, doesn't it? You go, oh, right, that explains why I do it. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think even that little bit of, okay, I'm not crazy for doing it. It actually helps. And there is studies and information behind it. I think that's very comforting for the people that, like, because I've had friends in school, like, why the hell are you rubbing your hands together? And it's like, I don't know. I'm just like, and you think about nervousness and things like that. And like, I've also done, what is it called? It was kind of like tremor therapy, something like TRE.
Yeah. You just kind of like shake, yeah.
Yeah. And even that links to like when you're angry or scared, like your body starts to like shake a little bit. And it's all those little things. And you're like, okay, this all makes sense now. And you don't have to kind of feel bad for doing things because actually there's something behind it. And that's what I love about what you do, because not only are you helping people, but you're explaining the things you do as well. Because I go to see a chiropractor and he explains things as he goes. Not that I fully understand it. I just say, because I don't know. Like, he's saying that this links to this and this. And I'm like, okay. Because it's not something I will understand. But when it comes to the tapping or like the eye movement that you're on about, it all makes sense in my head now. Like, it's that penny drop moment of, oh, that makes sense. Whereas like there's some things that I'm just like, yeah, no, unless I study for like 6 years on this topic, I ain't gonna know it. And I think that's what a lot of people are put off by some of these strategies and practices. They think, oh, you've got to know loads about it. Whereas actually you're probably doing little bits already. And it's just that little bit of guidance. That's where you come in, and I love that. So just to give you a bit of an ego boost around that.
Thank you. Also, I would say as well that there's kind of different ways of looking at this. So you can just take it on face value, which some people do, but I tend to work a lot with very logical people as well that like to actually know why. I'm very skeptical myself. I really like to know why things work, and some things we just don't. But because our science is getting a lot better, we are learning a lot more about, why things work in the brain and actually being able to see it happen. But going back to the tapping, I can't remember whether it was Greeks or Spartans, but one of those sort of warring tribes, they used to tap underneath, just on the cheek, just underneath the eye before they went into battle, to give them confidence and to give them, you know, that fearless quality. And that is the one that's to do with fear. So it's been going on for an awful long time.
I love it when I find out things like that, because I'm like, it's not just something that's, and a lot of people think, oh, it's something new because it's on TikTok or Instagram, like, and they think it's this brand new thing that people are just trying to sell. But actually, no, it works, and it's been happening a long time, and that's what I love about it. And we'll probably get into it a bit more in a small little bit. But one of the topics we were going to discuss, and we obviously have tried to discuss, and we're going to discuss again, is, and I'm going to change it up slightly, misconceptions around hypnosis. Because my perceptions of hypnosis, obviously I know you now, and I'm learning more about it. But I know before I learned more about it, I was very much of, oh, it's this thing that happens on stage, and you get made to look like a bit of an idiot on stage as a person being hypnotized. But that's kind of what society/TV give you the impression of, whereas you're using it to help so many people, and I don't think a lot of people understand how good that is and how good it can be. So almost like a little rundown of what hypnosis is, how you use it, any misconceptions you've had clients come through to you with. Yeah, the floor is yours around that.
So yeah, hypnosis, I mean, stage hypnosis is fantastic for hypnosis because it's what keeps it in people's eyes. You know, that's where you come across hypnosis, because it's out there. But it also obviously has its negative side as well, because people sort of see it and think, oh, I don't want to be made fun of, or they think it's just completely made up. They think it's people just acting. It's not acting. You can definitely tell. You know, if I'm a hypnotist and I'm hypnotizing people, I know whether they're just playing along or I know whether they're actually truly hypnotized. So then it comes back to what actually is hypnosis. I was with all those people that were frightened of it, that were skeptical of it. Actually, I am skeptical about some things because I still don't quite know how it works, but I was actually quite frightened of it originally. So although I was interested in the mind and sort of fascinated by hypnosis, I didn't want anyone messing with my mind. Thank you very much. It's my mind. I can deal with it. And I think that's one of the things that a lot of people come across. It's the fact of, I have to be able to sort this out myself. It's my mind. I should be able to sort it out. Well, if you break your leg, you don't think it's my leg, I should be able to, fix it. You go along to see somebody who can help you. Just because it's your brain, we don't come with an instruction manual for the brain that means that you can fix it easily. So, you might have been in a situation where you've got people around you that can give you good advice, that can help you, or you might find that you don't have that. So you haven't had that support, you haven't had that understanding. And even if you have had those people that have been able to give you that good advice along the way, sometimes somebody from outside can just help a little bit more as well. So when people say, I'm scared of hypnosis, I get it. I completely understand it because I was there. When I went along for the first, I did a little weekend introduction to hypnosis course. When I went along on that, I went along actually probably about 50% expecting to actually walk out at some point because it was a bit too much for me and I didn't want to do it. So, but I was there and they started demonstrating hypnosis. I was like, wow, this is amazing. By lunchtime, we were hypnotizing each other and I was hooked. That's it. It's like, this is amazing. Because hypnosis is really, really quite straightforward. If you've ever daydreamed, that is a form of hypnosis. You're just focused on something, your mind is taken up by something, and you are in your own little world, if you like. So you are creating your own reality at that time. If you ever tell yourself, oh, I can't do that, oh, that's impossible, I'm no good at that, that is hypnosis. It's a negative form of hypnosis, but it's hypnosis. So if somebody comes to me and they're going, oh, I can never be any good at that, I'm hopeless, I'm really anxious about this, my job is to use that same part of their brain that's giving them those suggestions, but to put in a positive one rather than a negative one. So there's kind of 3 elements to hypnosis. A good hypnotic suggestion, there's 3 elements to it. So if you imagine it, it's like in a sort of triangle, 3 points on a triangle. There's a thought, there's a belief in that thought, and then there's repetition of the thought. Thought, belief, repetition. Thought, belief, repetition. If the thought is, I can't do it, or it's scary, and you believe it, and then you repeat it, that becomes your reality. However, if we can change that thought slightly to, it's not quite as scary, I might be able to do it a little bit, and you can believe that, and you repeat it, and you can keep making that positive belief stronger, the positive suggestion stronger, that you still believe, and so therefore you then get the positive hypnosis. So that's my role, is to work out how to do that.
That's amazing. And I think when, like, my brain tries to rationalize things and stuff like that, but when you link it to, I can't remember who said the quote, anyone in the comments, tell me, because that would be a good comment to put. But there's that quote of, if you believe you, no, whether you believe you can or you can't, you're right.
Yeah, I think that was Ford. I think it was Henry Ford, I think, said that. Or various people have said it in different ways.
Yeah.
It's a kind of, yeah.
So if anyone knows where the original quote was, that's a good little call to action in the video. Just gonna do that. Pop it down in the comments, because I'd love to know. And if you're listening on a podcast platform, head over to YouTube and comment it there, just saying. But it's that thing of the power of what you believe, and then telling yourself over and over again. And I love that kind of idea of affirmations and things like that. But again, looking at that 3-part model, you can say it, you can repeat it, but if you don't believe it, it's not
Traditional
there.
Affirmations can often be thought, repetition, thought, repetition, thought, repetition. And that's why if you don't believe it, you just go, oh, this is hopeless. I don't believe this is not true. And it makes you feel even worse, because you're saying all the stuff you're supposed to say and it's not making any difference. They're always, so sometimes it's about making it slightly less, sort of like world changing. So a very quick story about one of my clients who had sort of quite poor body image. So for her to look in the mirror and say, I feel good about my body, forget it, wasn't going to happen. So for her to say that, I feel good about my body, I feel good about my body, that was just like, she's like, I can't even imagine saying that. Makes me think, really, it makes me feel even worse because I can't say it. So for her, I set up some positive affirmations for her, or affirmations. And for her, it was, I can start to feel, or I think is I can start to learn to feel better about my body, which, to be honest, sounds a bit pathetic. It's not that struck. It's like that, not that kind of like, hey, let's go and get it. It's like I can start to learn to feel a little bit better. But she said that for about a month or so. And when she came back, she'd originally come in and she had a shawl that she used to wrap around her. It was winter, but she had it over the top of her coat, and then she'd come in, put her coat up, and then get the shawl and wrap it around her, because she just felt she wanted to hide herself. And when she came back the following month, she took the coat off, put it on the coat stand, and put the shawl on the coat stand as well, and sat down, started talking. And it was only partway through the session that she suddenly realised, oh, I've taken the shawl off. And she said, I do actually feel a little bit better now. She said, I still can't say I love my body, but I'm feeling a little bit better about it.
That's amazing. And I remember, like, because you mentioned it on the previous attempt, and I said about my hoodies. And, like, yes, I wear hoodies because they're comfy as hell, but also there's that aspect of using it as something to hide in, because it's baggy, it's comfy, it's not form-fitting like some clothes. And, like, I resonate with that, but also the making sure what you're saying is, I'm not saying things aren't truthful if you say them wrong, but you have to believe them. And I think that's where you helped that client, is it was something she could say that she can believe, like, because everyone wants to improve. So if you're learning to, then it's not a lie, it's not a disbelief, it's you're pushing yourself towards that. And the more we do things, obviously the better we get. It's like muscles, and the more you work it. But actually, almost softening that affirmation in that case helped so much. And if that's a month, like that's groundbreaking in itself, because like for me, I'd never go out the house without a hoodie on or like a button-up shirt, because I don't like things fitting me. And it's like I won't go out the house in joggers because I don't like how they look, and I'll always wear jeans, and all those little things where you think it's just because you like that's your style, but sometimes it can have that underlying thing behind it. And like I'm very honest about the fact that I wear hoodies, A, because they're comfy, B, because I don't like smart clothes because I feel suffocated in shirts and stuff, but also to hide. And all through, if I go back to secondary school, maybe even late primary school, I used to wear a jumper, and then in secondary school I'd wear a fleece, and that fleece would not come off. And yeah, it was those little things of I'm more comfortable this way, so I'm going to keep doing it. And then it's become my reality of I need to wear something baggy, otherwise I'm not going to be comfortable. And it is that little cycle of belief of I'm more comfortable with this, so I'm going to wear it, and I just repeat it. And the simplicity of that 3-point thing that you've outlined of like the thought, the belief, the repetition, like how that can be in any sense of like anything in reality. Like, because if you, I guess if you're like, I want to quit smoking, I will quit, like the belief is you will quit smoking, and you keep telling yourself that, you can probably quit smoking. Like there's so many different applications for that simple method. I want to call it a method or strategy, or
it's the kind of underlying concept of all sort of positive hypnosis, really, or all hypnosis, that suggestion, because hypnosis is suggestion.
And I think that's what probably that's probably the bit that people don't know about, is that it's suggestion rather than taking over someone's brain.
Oh yeah, I can't control anybody. You know, so I was having this conversation with somebody at the weekend, and it was, you know, I was with some nice people, and it was kind of nice weather. But, you know, it's like, well, if I could control the world, although it's kind of quite nice here, I'd probably be somewhere that was a lot warmer. And I'd probably be just going, hey, bring me this. And, you know, I can't control people. I can't make them do anything. But what I can do is help their mind to think differently about something. So one of the ways I describe hypnosis is about like a partnership. So if you imagine that the two of us are sitting in a car, my client is in the driving seat and I'm in the passenger seat. Now, if the driver knows where they want to go, but they don't quite know how to go there, they know they want to go to Edinburgh, but they don't quite know the route there, I can give them directions. I can say, oh, you go along this motorway and then go, oh, turn left here, turn right here. They've got control of the steering wheel and the brake and the gears. So if they decide that they don't trust me, if they decide they don't want to go to Edinburgh after all, they can turn the car around. I'm not there going, right, give me the steering wheel. So that's the way it is. It's not about me driving the car for them. It's about me helping them to get to where they want to go.
Oh, that is brilliant. I've said this multiple times that I just want, because I'm very much of the mindset, or not mindset, because I hate using mindset, but of the viewpoint of I don't think I can be hypnotized.
Oh, that's a good one, yeah.
I feel like a lot of people probably think that, but I'm guessing from your perspective, everyone can be, just differently.
It's not about being like a zombie that just sitting there kind of going, oh, I will do everything that you tell me to do without questioning. That doesn't happen. The vast majority of people that I hypnotize, they'll be aware of pretty much everything that goes on. So a bit like daydreaming, you know, you're sort of there and you're off daydreaming, and then somebody says, oh, do you want a cup of tea? Oh, what was that? Oh, yes, please. And then you go back off into daydreaming again. Or you're, you know, if people who play sport, they'll probably know it is like being in the zone. You know, so if you're jogging, or if you're playing golf, or you're focusing on a team sport, you're totally focused on what's happening around you. if you read or you're watching a good film, you're totally involved in the film, and then you suddenly realize, oh, that cup of tea that I was really desperate for like 2 hours ago, it's sitting there cold and I haven't actually drunk it. So it's just about that total focus, concentration, and then your mind deciding, is this something I'm happy to do? Because there's two parts to your mind. I mean, there's lots of parts, but the basic principle is you've got your conscious, logical part of your mind, which you're talking about just there. So that's the part that says, oh, I don't know whether this is going to work, or the part that says, I ought to do this. So in hypnosis, usually you've got the part that says, well, I don't need to be anxious because those people are my friends. So therefore they're going to be nice to me and I haven't done anything to upset them. But then that subconscious part of your mind, the part that deals with habits, the part that deals with emotions goes, yeah, but maybe I've got it wrong. Maybe they won't like me. And then that's really horrible. So it will always kind of go for that real emotion. Now, the emotional part of your brain is the strongest part of your brain. So it's always going to win because it doesn't have to answer any questions. If you've got one person there that says, I don't like this, and the other part that says, I don't like this because, that one's always going to win because it's just like, I don't like it, end of story. This one's trying to explain themselves all the time, and that one will always get there first.
Wow. I say this a lot, but I'm pretty sure I get guests on here just because I want to be like speechless, because yeah, I'm one of those people that say it's not possible, but as you like, I can't explain it because that thought gets there first. I can't explain why I don't think I can be hypnotized because I've never needed to. Oh, that makes my head go a bit funny.
But you've hypnotized yourself. I mean, I'm a good hypnotist. You've hypnotized yourself loads and loads of times. You're really good at it because you've got 24 hours access to your brain. Whatever you tell yourself and keep telling yourself, that repetition, that becomes your reality. And if you believe you can do it, you'll get on and do it. But if you don't believe you can do it, then you keep believing that you can't do it. But sometimes, again, from your point of view, you might find there's a little bit of new information that then means that you change your mind and go, well, actually, maybe I can do it. Or somebody that you trust or have got confidence in goes, you could do that, Andrew. You think, actually, yeah, I can, because it then feels okay, because maybe you've got a bit more information that says, no, this is okay. So you've got the logical part of it, and you've also got, but then the emotional part of it is actually accepting what that logical part is telling you.
I'm going to have to ruminate on that one. I think that's the right word. Ruminate.
Yeah, a bit of rumination.
That's it. Yeah, no, I'm gonna be watching this back as much as everyone else is, because I always pick things up differently when I listen to things back. Don't like listening to my own voice, but I can skip past those bits. Now that we've and I feel like we have squashed quite a few misconceptions that maybe I had before we did the podcast, because I'm the only one here. Listeners, you're accepting my misconceptions. But now I want to get into some of the other topics we spoke about before. So anxiety. Now, I make it quite clear I am an anxious person. I am diagnosed with anxiety. I got told when I had my ADHD diagnosis that it was probably the ADHD that caused my anxiety. And I was like, thank you for that one. Bit too little, too late, but there we go. So this is a very, very wide question. What's anxiety to you as a hypnotherapist?
I guess anxiety is something where you don't feel comfortable with something. And that's why things like, ADHD, autism, not fitting in, not being the same as everybody else around you for whatever reason that might be, that is obviously going to bring up anxiety a lot of the time, because most people want to fit in, because that's one of the things that if you go back into sort of prehistory, if you don't fit in with the group around you, they might not like you, they might not share their food with you, therefore you're out, you're dead. And that's not a good place to be. So a lot of people, you have that desire to fit in, and so therefore if you feel you're not, that brings up that anxiety. I've forgotten the question now. Oh yeah, anxiety. So what does it mean? So it's, for me, it's about finding out, where do you feel uncomfortable? Do you know why you feel uncomfortable? And then using things like the EFT, using things like some positive hypnosis, maybe some of the other techniques as well, to actually then see whether you can just shift your mindset into feeling more comfortable with things that you didn't feel comfortable about before.
So in terms of kind of identifying those, so for me, again, guys, you're not here, so we're using my examples. But if you do want to provide examples going forward, please do comment on the videos wherever they are. For me, I get anxious on public transport. Don't fully know, well, I somewhat know why. I think it's because I'm not in control. Because as many people who know me personally, I'm a control freak. I like to know everything that's going on. That's why I like doing a podcast, because like I'm in control of it. I can do what I want with it. But also why I like being a business owner, because I can control what I'm doing. But for me, it's whenever I'm not at the wheel of a car, or I'm not the one driving, any other transport, even if I'm just a passenger in someone else's car, I get anxious. I feel like travel sick and stuff like that. So how, from identifying that, because I'm sure some of the listeners and watchers will have something that they're thinking about right now as we're talking about this, once you identify that anxiety point, what would you suggest to kind of either alleviate it or not get past it? Because I feel like that's when you actually need someone to help you with that. But if it's like a self-help thing, how would you minimize it?
So the first thing to say as well is that actually anxiety can be helpful. So it's always questioning, like, what's it giving for you as well? Because some cases, actually, you might want to feel anxious with the person who's driving you if they're not very good at driving. So it's about saying, yeah, I need to be anxious with that person, or I need to maybe avoid going with that person, or put across my point of view of, could you drive slower because I find this uncomfortable. But if the anxiety isn't being helpful, if it's something where, well, some people say when I do a fear of flying with them, I'm anxious because somebody else is in control. Personally, I would prefer a well-trained pilot to be in control of the aeroplane I'm in, but that's the whole. So in that situation, you don't want to feel anxious in that situation, because the person who's in control is actually the better person to be in control. My favorite technique, though, for there's a self-help technique for reducing anxiety and just calming down those really overwhelming panicking feelings where your brain's going on overdrive and it's thinking, I can't think straight and there's so much going on, I'm really worried, I'm really panicky. There's an acupressure point on your wrist, and you just rub in a gentle circle on your wrist there. So just rubbing in a gentle circle. So it's just about, so it's sort of, if you put your whole palm across there, just with where the little crease on the edge of your wrist, and just rub very gently in a circle. And all you do is just focus on that sensation, just focus on that. And then after a while, you find you take a slightly deeper breath than normal, and everything does feel a little bit calmer.
Ooh.
An alternative is you can use both wrists together. So you do what I call the perfume movement, and you just rub both wrists in a circle like that. The nice thing about that one is you can actually do single hand. You can just do quite discreetly. So obviously, if my hand was just down there, you wouldn't even see me doing it. That's a little bit more noticeable. But that is great because it just helps your mind to just feel a little bit calmer. And then you can use maybe some of the other sort of self-help techniques that you've got from that as well. But that's my favorite go-to, like, don't panic button.
Yeah, it does. From trying it and thinking about how I do little things to kind of help manage, it is so discreet. Like, no one's going to be looking at your hands. Also, like, no one's going to be looking at what you're doing anyway. Like, I think that's another thing, is that whilst we're sat there thinking everyone's going to look at us for doing something odd, those people might be thinking that they're doing something odd and we're looking at them. So it's almost I want to say an ego thing, but it is that visual representation of yourself. You don't want to do something that might look a bit odd, because you think people are watching when most of the time everyone's worried about everyone else watching them.
Exactly.
So if it helps, do it.
The other thing I'd say with that as well is, if you are worried about other people around you, so that's kind of like the simple, quick, the quick version. I would say if you learn EFT, you can actually do it in your head, so you don't even need to tap or rub on the points. So that's really good for being able to do it absolutely anywhere as well.
Oh, wow. I didn't know you could do it like in your...
You just imagine tapping or rubbing on the points, and it's almost as good as actually physically doing it, which is fantastic. And I've taught it to a lot of people, particularly around anxiety. Maybe, they're in work or they are with another group of people and they think, they all think I'm stupid, or, I'm worried about what they're thinking about me. And you can just imagine rubbing on the points. Business meetings as well, so networking meetings, I've taught it to people there when they're anxious about standing up and talking as well, or people maybe in giving presentations in front of colleagues or in front of other students. Again, they can just, when they're preparing for it, they can just rub around the points in their head and then stand up and give a fantastic calm talk.
Okay, that's just unlocked another avenue. Whoa. That's just blown my mind slightly, like, because I always thought like you have to do it physically to get the effect, but
no, you can imagine, Robert. And so I know we're going on to sleep later on as well, but this is something you can actually do while you're going off to sleep as well, to help you go to sleep better as well. And obviously if you're lying in bed, you might not necessarily want to sort of move around, so you could just imagine rubbing the points and just drift off to sleep as well.
I might have to try that later. I got to get up early tomorrow, so I might need it.
I did tell you it's my number one. I mean, I did tell you for self-help, EFT, honestly, every time, just go for it. Wow. So anybody out there, learn EFT. It's fantastic.
And go to Sharon to learn it. So sharonstiles.co.uk. So as you alluded, I'm trying to keep an eye on time, but I never normally do. So in terms of, you mentioned sleep. And sleep, anyone that knows me well enough knows that my relationship with sleep, to put it in a comical way, sleep's like sleep's the person that's playing hard to get in my life. It's got a lot better, but that's because I've spent time looking at like sleep hygiene and different things and meditations, and I've probably exhausted the lists, because apparently the doctors nowadays don't like giving sleeping tablets because they can be addictive. I'm like, I'm on other tablets. So, but then obviously I did look into sleep hygiene and different techniques and stuff like that. So you saying that EFT can help with that, and I'm sure like there's so many different techniques, but why? Firstly, I want to take like your opinion on the challenges, because for me, obviously the challenges are technology, anxiety, all those kind of psychological things as well as the physical things. But why do you think so many young, and I'm not just singling out young people, but obviously this is a podcast aimed for university students and such, why do you think sleep is such an elusive thing for people at university or studying or that kind of area of life?
There's a long list of different things. So it will depend. So some people, it is anxiety and it's an over busy mind, because when you are worrying about something all the way through the day, you're getting on with everything, doing everything, keeping your mind busy. When you go to get ready to go to bed, you're lying in bed and your brain goes, right, my go, you've been shutting me up all day. Now you've got no excuse. You're just lying here, not doing anything. I'm going to have a go at you now. So you ought to be worried about this. And you need to do that. And how are you thinking about this? And all those things go through your mind. Did I say something to upset that person? Have I got to do that? Am I going to be able to do this by the end of the week? So it's your mind just basically taking that space to go through all those things. So that's why if you've got a technique that can help you just park all of that, and that could be something practical like writing down all the things you're worried about, because when you write it down, it takes it out of your brain, so your brain doesn't need to keep reminding you. So if you're ever worried about anything, so anxiety, sleep, if you write down those things you're anxious about, then a lot of the time your brain knows, oh, I don't need to keep reminding you about it now because it's actually written down. And so that's one way. Using EFT, that's another way, because again, EFT helps to soothe you. It helps to calm you down, particularly if you do the rubbing rather than the tapping, because rubbing on all the acupressure points is naturally soothing. So it helps to kind of calm your mind down a little bit. Or you might choose to listen to something. So it could be a meditation, it could be some music, it could be an audio book that's preferably not a thriller or horror. That doesn't tend to go down so well, but something that's kind of, you can just drift off to, and it doesn't matter if you kind of miss out a bit because you can go back and listen to it again. Different people respond in different ways to going to sleep. If you speak to like 10 sleep specialists, they'll all give you 10 different things that you should do, because historically people have said you need to be quiet, you need to have a kind of calm space, and that will work for some people. However, I think because we lead much busier lives now, for some people having that quietness can actually be quite threatening. And so actually having something that is music or some noise in the background, sometimes something like white noise where you've just got a sound in the background, that can help people, listening to waves or rain or something like that. Some people have a fan that they have going. So sometimes having a noise that your mind can tune into, that can actually help people go to sleep. Whereas other people, they do need complete silence. Otherwise, they're just awake and they can't go to sleep. So find out what works for you. If you're a smoker, smoking tends to mean that you go to sleep slightly later. I think it takes about 20 minutes extra for you to sleep if you've got nicotine in your system. So it might be that if you want to carry on smoking, you just stop, have your final cigarette of the day just slightly earlier in the evening. Different people respond differently to different medications and drugs and things like that. So it could be that if you're taking medication, it's got caffeine in it, again, that can keep you awake. So find out what works for you. Don't think you necessarily have to do exactly what they tell you in all the sort of sleep books. If you think, oh, I sleep better with the window open, or I sleep better if I'm going to bed listening to music, or I sleep better if I'm, trying to do mental arithmetic in my brain, do that if it sends you to sleep. The nice thing again about something like EFT is that because it's just taking your mind and letting your mind drift, same with meditation or something like that, if you don't go straight to sleep, it doesn't matter, because you're in a naturally more relaxed state. The thing you don't want is when you're lying awake and then you're thinking, I must go to sleep, and you get even more stressed out about it, because then your body's stressed, your mind's stressed, so you're less likely to go to sleep. But if you are slightly relaxed, then actually that's the next best thing to going to sleep. And then also imagine waking up in the morning feeling fully refreshed, alert, awake, fantastic as well.
I'd not thought of doing, like, obviously I've tried like counting sheep and doing all the, but actually thinking about the feeling you'll get when you're refreshed in the morning, that's interesting. That's not crossed my mind before. How, in your way of explaining, because I'm me, how would that help people?
So that will help if you think, oh, I'm going to be lying here all night and I can't go to sleep and I'm going to be really tired in the morning. So that is a good counter for that, because what you do then is you imagine, because you're then imagining, oh, I'm going to be waking up really tired and I can't sleep. So then imagine actually drifting her to sleep, imagining what that could be like, and then waking up in the morning and the sun's coming in and it's nice and warm and it's great and you feel full of energy, because then you're telling your brain you're going to be waking up, so therefore you've gone to sleep. It's by default, really. If you're waking up, you've slept. Whereas if you're telling yourself, oh, I'm going to be really tired tomorrow, you're telling yourself you haven't had a good night's sleep.
And I guess from discussing that kind of goes back to the 3 point of suggest, like good suggestion of the thought, believing it, and then repeating it, and just doing that mechanism again.
Yeah, exactly.
This has been a very good episode. And I say that because I just looked at the time and I don't want to keep you for too long. But I feel like I'm going to have to get you back on another episode in the future because there's so much more we could talk about. And just, I'd also like, yeah, I'm trying different ways of doing the podcast as well. But those little techniques that I'm sure everyone listening will be able to test and try and have a feel around to see what works for them, like you suggested. I think just the tips you've given so far, phenomenal. And remember, guys, this is what Sharon does for like work. This is like what she does day in, day out, is helping people. So if you are listening and you are struggling with similar things that we've discussed today, or there's something else that you think Sharon might be able to help you with, please do click the link that will be in the description or the show notes, which will be sharonstiles.co.uk. I'll get that in there again. When you go to her website, it is a plethora, myriad, I love different words like that, of so much. There's MP3 audio downloads. There's hypno holidays, which I feel like I'm going to have to ask you about when I get you back as a guest again, because that sounds very intriguing. There's so much that I could ask about, especially because there's different names for different things. But yes, if you do want to check it out, please do. Other than your website, where else can they find you, Sharon?
So I'm on Facebook, I'm on Instagram, and I'm on Twitter as well. And I've also obviously do the blog as well. So usually if you look up just Sharon Stiles, that will pretty much find me, because I've got different names on the different platforms. Or go onto the website actually, and it's got all my different places on there. And if anyone's got any questions, please just do feel free to email me as well, or check me out on one of the other social media sites as well. Email's usually the better way of getting me, because I get back a little bit quicker. But I could talk about hypnosis all day. So, if you've got a spare week or so, we can do loads more. Well, but I'm always really open to, anybody got any questions, I'm always more than happy to answer them.
Yeah, definitely. And I'm sure I'll have questions. It's me. I always come up with questions afterwards. So everyone listening, please do give us your top thing that you listened to and took out from today in the comments below. If you are listening on a podcast platform, do come over to the YouTube, or better still, join the support network, because the support network is my new membership group that allows you to get the podcast episodes early, and you get other benefits as well. So to look at that, you need to go to the link in the description that is for the support network. But please do tell us what your biggest takeaway was. What have you taken away from this episode that you are going to try or have tried, or anything like that? And do tell us, because we'll like to know. And like Sharon said, reach out to her, ask her questions, because I think the early days that I met you, Sharon, in networking, your tagline was hypnosis is fun.
That's when I do the stage side of stuff. Yeah, hypnosis is fun. Yeah.
So it's always like, just find out, because I think a lot of people will know now, and I think over the last couple of years they would have picked up that knowing more is better, because if you don't know, you just don't know. So yeah, thank you for joining us today. Please do like, share, review, rate, whatever the different platforms allow you to do, because I only really do YouTube. So if you listen to podcasts more often, do what you can to give me some satisfaction on those platforms. Thank you. And thank you, Sharon, for trying number 3.
It's been great. Honestly, if we have to do number 4, I'm up for it.
Fingers crossed. Well, there will be a number 4, but it will be a new episode, because this one will work. So yes, guys, that has been me and Sharon today. I don't know what funky title I'm going to give it yet. I'll come up with one. But we'll see you on the next one, and do connect with us on our platforms. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Bye.